all organizations, all companies are limited in their capacity, either for producing goods or providing services. So there is always one resource that is most restrictive. And that resource that is restrictive is termed as limiting factor. Now we have various factors of production in an organization, such as a manufacturing organization. The factors of production will be: one, material, the material required to produce goods and services; labor hours, the hours available for you to produce. People are human, they cannot keep working 24 hours. That is why in most organizations they run shifts. So the labor hours, these are resource, and sometimes the people that are willing to buy goods from you, the demand you have, the demand placed on your organization. For you to be able to meet that demand, you must have to consider the resources at your disposal. Do you have the labor hours to meet up with that demand? Do you have sufficient material within a week, within a month, within a year to meet up your total budget for demand? So those restrictive factors, such as labor, hours, will be termed as limiting factor. So a limiting factor is any factor that is in scarce supply. Take note of that. A limiting factor is any factor that is in scarce supply and that stops the organization from expanding its activities. So these are factors that limit organizations' activities. Yes, no matter how you try, you have a demand of a request to supply 10,000 loaves of bread. But looking at all the resources you have, you might have sufficient material to meet that demand, but you don't have the labor hours. Now, if you want to engage more labor hours, you have to spend more by getting more workers. So in an organization, any factor that is limiting your production, your ability to meet up your target, that resource is termed as a limiting factor. So we have a case of single limiting factor, we have a case of multiple limiting factor. Now, a case of single limiting factor is treated by ranking products based on the resource that will give, or the product that will give the highest contribution per unit of limiting factor. So based on the product that will give the highest contribution in relation to that limiting factor, we rank less variable cost. So that is contribution. Said contribution is selling price less variable cost. So contribution will be maximized by earning the biggest possible
Hello, sir.
contribution.
Your
Hello, can you
line
hear
is
me?
your line is breaking. I don't know if it's from my end alone. I don't know.
It's not
But
only
at a,
you. It's not only you.
okay,
It has been
okay.
breaking
At a
throughout.
time it will go
Yeah.
off.
Yes, some people are trying to call me. That is why.
Not you alone. It's also affecting me from my hand too.
No problem. Yes, I've put my phone on do not disturb. So some persons are trying to reach out to me. So that is why. So the concept of contribution is very key when we try to talk about limiting factor. Limiting factor. So this contribution is selling price less variable cost. In another form, contribution is fixed cost plus profit. Take note of that. In most questions, you might not be given selling price. Yes, you might be given selling price likewise, but you might not be given a variable. So you look at which of the variables in the question that you can use to determine your contribution. So contribution can be selling price less variable cost. The concept of contribution means that portion of profit that can cover up for your fixed cost and that can cover up for that portion, that excess you have that can cover up for your profit and for your fixed cost.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Can't hear you
sorry,
again.
I lost connection again. I maybe I'll have to change to my to a modem because too many calls are coming in. That is why the I'm losing connection. So, as I was saying, that in limiting factor, the concept of contribution is key. And we have two steps of contribution. We have contribution per unit and contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per unit and contribution per limiting factor. So once you determine your limiting factor in a question, you need to determine the contribution per limiting factor. The contribution per limiting factor. In the last class, I showed us various steps that we need to take to solve questions on limiting factor. So I'm still going to do that again. So when you talk about limiting factor, you're talking about constraints, binding constraints that is restricting you from achieving a set target. As students, most times the time to read are not always there. So that is a limiting factor on our part. And to some persons, it's not that they don't have the time. The resource to meet up with certain demands of the exams is not always there in terms of finance. To some persons, they have the time, but there is no finance. To some persons, they have the finance, but there is no time. So what is that restrictive thing on your part that is limiting the attainment of certain set targets? So that is limiting factor. So anything that will inhibit your ability or the ability of an organization to meet the demand of a customer is limiting factor. So limiting factors include limited skilled labor, limited raw materials, limited labor hours. So these are some examples of limiting factors. And what are the steps? What are the steps to solve limiting factor question? Let's quickly show that the steps to solve limiting factor question. Let's show that.
Hello, Mr. Topo. Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, can you help us take the types of limiting factors again? The first one you mentioned, skill labor.
All right, let me just put it down here. Let me put it
Okay,
down
okay.
here.
All right.
Limiting factors include one, we can talk about limited skilled labor. talk about limited raw materials. Also, we can talk about limited labor hours. So these can be limiting factors. So we have steps to solve single limiting factor. Steps to solve single limiting factor. And number one step is for you to identify the limiting factor. Now, when you read a question, you must take note of certain verbs and nouns, yes, in the question. They will not tell you that this is the limiting factor. They can just say that the maximum labor hour is this. They can tell you that labor is limited to this. The raw material available is this. So in your own understanding, you should know that this is the maximum, this is the limit the organization can afford within that production period. So you must be able to identify what the limiting factor is in a question. That is the first step. So step one is your ability to identify limiting factor. So we need to be able to identify the limiting factor in a question. It's very important because you can read a question and not know what the limiting factor is. Identify the limiting factor. And how do you do that? You calculate the amount required of the key resource key resources. For example, in a question, it can be put that the maximum amount of hours is what? Is 1,000 hours. Is 1,000 hours. Now, based on your calculation, based on the demand, or based on your budgeted production in units, the required hours might be, let's say, 1,500 hours. 1,500 hours. It shows that what is available, let's put it this way, available is 1,000 hours, required is 1,500 hours. So in this case now, it is seen that labor hours is a limiting factor, because for us to meet our production requirements, we need what? 1,500 hours. But what is available is what? 1,000 hours. So we have a shortfall. We have a shortfall of 500 hours. So it shows that labor hours is a limiting factor. So when we want to produce now, we'll need to see which product will give us the highest contribution in relation to labor hours. So the first step is for us to identify if there is limiting factor, if there is actually a limiting factor. And how do you do that? You determine the available hours given to you in the question. If it is material, the maximum material available for use by an organization, then based on the demand that you need to meet, you will check for product A, how many units of material X do I need to produce 1 unit of product B, How many units of material Y do I need to produce 1 unit of product A? So in that regard, so first step, identify the limiting factor. Identify the limiting factor. The next step is for you to calculate the contribution per unit of each of the products. So in some questions, take note, they might have solved the contribution for you. You might be giving the contribution free of charge in the question. So you don't need to solve for it again in some questions. Why in some questions you will not be giving, then you will need to solve for it. Take note of that. So step two, we have it as calculate the contribution. Calculate the contribution per unit for each product. For each product. The contribution per unit for each product. And how do you do that? How do you calculate contribution per unit for each product? You can identify your selling price. You can identify your selling price in the question, selling price. Then you can identify the various variable costs. The various variable costs. That is, let me say, less variable costs. The variable costs can be in different form. It can be direct materials. It can be direct labor. It can be variable production overhead. So you identify the selling price in the question, then also the various variable costs in the question you identify. So once you do that, the difference between your selling price and your variable cost will give you what we call contribution. We give contribution. But where you are not giving, let's say, the selling price, and you're just giving, in the question, you're giving fixed cost, you're giving profit, your contribution will be fixed cost plus profit. Write it down so that when you are trying to solve a question and you are not seeing selling price, you're not seeing maybe variable costs, or you're even giving variable costs, but one of these is not there. Selling price, variable cost is not there. But you can see fixed cost. You can see profit. Just add your fixed cost and profit, and you get your contribution. I'm emphasizing this because I know most times students often find it difficult at that point to determine contribution when one of the variable is not given. So when you determine your contribution per unit, what next are you to do? After determining contribution per unit, the next thing we are to do, the next step, step three is to do what? You calculate the contribution, per limiting factor. You calculate the contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor. Now, how do you do this? You've already determined contribution per unit. Now, the limiting factor now is how many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of a product? You need to determine that in a question. So when you determine the number of hours, the quantity of material you need to produce 1 unit of a product, then you use your contribution. You divide that by your contribution per unit to get contribution per limiting factor. To get contribution per limiting factor. You can do that in this form. You can do that in this form. Don't mind this formula. I'm just trying to use it for my. So we have it as contribution. We have it as contribution per unit divided by what? Units of the limiting factor. Unit of the limiting factor. So with this, you can determine your contribution per limiting factor. Can determine your contribution per limiting factor. So when you determine your contribution per limiting factor, maybe for product A, for product B, for product C, for product D, for product E. Now, the next step is for you to rank which of the products is giving you the highest contribution. Step 4. Step 4. Rank the contribution. Rank the contribution per limiting factor. In descending order. I believe we know descending order. That is, you identify the highest product, the product that is giving you the highest contribution. You rank it as first, followed by the second, third, fourth, in that order. In that order. So when you do that, then you check and allocate the resources based on the ranking. Based on the ranking. So some of these things will make sense when we solve using a question. When we try to solve using a question. So once you determine your ranking, you allocate the available limiting factor on the basis of their priority, on the basis of the product that will give you the highest contribution. So with this, I want us to look at this example. So I usually make use of one simple question to make students understand the concept of limiting factor. That is this question, but I'm not going to use that now. I'm going to come straight to this question. To this question. Can somebody read, please? Can we read?
Yes, sir. Let me read. In came, that's example 2, sir.
No, the first one.
The first one. Okay, Fin Limited is considering 3 products: good, better, and best. The information regarding these products are as follows. We have good, better, and best. We have the selling price for good, 16 naira. The selling price for better, 18 naira. The selling price for best, 100 naira. Then the labor, 2 naira per hour, is 30 naira for good, 20 naira for better, 16 naira for best. Then the material, 1 naira per kg. We have 15 naira for good, we have 30 naira for better, and 20 naira for best. Then the contribution per unit for good is 15 naira, 30 naira for better, and 20 naira for best. Inputs per unit of the product. We have labor hour per unit, 15 hours, 10 hours for better, and 30 hours for best. Then the maximum demand per annum is 1,000 units for good, 800 units for better, and 600 units for best. Required. What product mix will maximize the annual contribution, assuming the labor hours is restricted to 20,000 hours per annum?
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. So now, looking at this question, if this is your first time of seeing it, look at it again. Now, you have 3 products: good, better, and best. Fine. Now we have selling price for good for 1 unit is 60 naira. For better, the selling price is 80 naira. For best, selling price for 1 unit is 100 naira. Now, labor. When solving performance management question, when you see anything in brackets, take a second look at it. When you see anything in brackets, there is an interpretation to that. Now, labor in brackets, 2 naira per hour. 2 naira per hour. And overall, for good, on 1 unit, you incur 30 naira to produce 1 unit of good in respect to labor. What is the interpretation of this? The interpretation of this is you should ask yourself, how many hours do we use to produce 1 unit of good? If we should incur overall 30 naira on 1 unit, and per hour we are spending how much? 2 naira per hour. So how many hours do we use to produce 1 unit of good? Anybody to give me the response? The answer is even on the screen, but I just want
15 hours. 15.
Yes, 15 hours. 15 hours. Because in most questions, they will not give you this. They will not give you labor hours. You can see labor hours per unit, 15, 10, 30. Most questions will not give you. When you go to the past question, you will see a question like this. They will not give you this free of charge. They will not give you free of charge. You will need to solve for it. So when you go to the Pathfinder, you see a question. The value of the labor or the material is in brackets in this form. They've not given you the overall value incurred on 1 unit. So how many hours do you spend in producing 1 unit of good? It will be 30 divided by 2 naira per hour. You have 15. It means you spent 15 hours to produce 1 unit of good. Take note of these workings here. It's very important, so that when you go to solve another question, you will not find it difficult to get that. Now, for better, the labor rate, overall labor rates spent 20 naira, and for 1 hour, we are incurring 2 naira per hour. So how many hours overall do we use to produce 1 unit of better? It's 20 divided by what? 2. You have 10. In this question, they've given it to us. In most questions, it will not be given. So now, for best, labor, we incur 60 naira to produce 1 unit of best. And for 1 hour, we are incurring 2 naira. So how many hours is used overall to produce best? It's 30 hours. Take note of that. Now, material too, 1 naira per kg. We incur how much here? 15 naira on good. So how many kg do you use to produce 1 unit of good? It will be what? 15 divided by 1. You have what? 15 kg. You have 15 kg. Yes. So also for better, 30 kg, 30 naira was incurred on material, and you're spending 1 naira per kg. It means the total number of kg used to produce better is still 30. Same for best, it will be 20 kg. Now, to get your contribution, a selling price less this variable cost. The variable costs include labor and material. You have what? 60 minus 30 minus 15. You have 15. 15. So the addition of these two is 45. 60 minus 45, you have 15. So also for better, in that same order, that is how to get your contribution. So that input per unit of products is giving labor hours per unit 15 for good, for better 10, for best 30. The maximum demand per annum, it means for good, in a year, the maximum demand expected is 1,000, for better is 800, for best is 600. Now, The question is now telling us what product mix will maximize the annual contribution, assuming that labor hour is restricted to 20,000 hours per annum. It means in a year, the total number of hours we have is what? 20,000 hours per annum. 20,000 hours. The question now is, based on this demand, how many hours do we need? We need to ask ourselves. And how do we get that? Somebody should be able to give me the answer. I believe you can all see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now I'm getting a message that you can't see my screen, but I think it's very fine. So based on this question, in relation to the demand per annum for each product, what will be the total hours required? We need to compare that with what is available. So that will be a confirmation of limiting factor. It will enable us to know if actually there is labor hour is a limiting factor. So let's quickly show the solution. But if you can give me the hours required, I'll be very glad, even before I solve. So solution. Solution. So the first step is for us to identify our limiting factor, to actually see the total hours required and compare with the total hours available. In some questions, you might not need to show this step, but in most questions, you might be required to test to see if there is actually a limiting factor. So let's see that confirmation of limiting factor. Confirmation of limiting factor. So step one.
Mr. Taiwo,
Yes.
you said if we can give you the, I just want to try you. I don't know if I'm right. So I
All
got
right.
41,000 hours required.
All right, it's fine. Yes, that is it. That is it. So step one. Step one. Let me say confirmation. Confirmation of limiting factor. Confirmation of limiting factor. So we have three products. We have three products. That is good. We have better. And we have best. Now, the annual demand for each of these products is what? For good is 1,000, right? For best, or for better is 800, and for best is what? Is 600. Now, the hours per unit, I believe you can see that in the question. Hours per unit is what? For good is what? 15. For better is what? It's 10. And for best is what? It's 30. Now, the total hours will now be what? Total hours for each of the products. For good, what will be the total hour to produce 1,000 units? It will be 15 multiplied by what? By 1,000.
1,000 multiplied by 15. That was 15,000.
Yes, let me show it. So we have it as 15,000. For better, it will be what? 800 multiplied by what? 10. It will be what?
8,000.
8,000. And for best, it will be what? 600 multiplied by what? Let's see. We have it as what?
18,000.
18,000. So now, the total hours required is what?
41,000.
Total hours required is 41,000. 41,000. Fine. Based on the question, hours available is what?
$20,000 hours.
Total hours available. 20,000 hours. So the question now is this: do we have sufficient hours to meet the production?
No.
So we have a shortfall. Shortfall of what?
21,000 hours.
21,000 hours. So this is calling for prioritization. This is calling for rationing of the available hours based on the product that will give the highest contribution. Because these 20,000 hours we have now, we need to use it well. Which product will give us the best per limiting factor? We need to determine that. So we need to satisfy the production of that unit, of that product first. Then we now continue to distribute to other products, to other products. So the next step now is this. We need to determine our contribution margin per hour. You know, in the question, we are already giving our contribution per unit, so we don't need to solve for that again. We don't need to solve for that. The contribution per unit is given. For good is 15, for better is 30, for best is what? It's 20. It's 20. So now, we need to determine our contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor. And based on the formula I displayed, what are we to do? Anybody to help?
We divide our contribution by the new rate. That's 15/15.
Okay. You divide, this is it. You are very correct. This is the contribution per unit, right? This
Yes,
is the
sir.
contribution per unit. Yes. Now, what?
Yes, sir.
Based on the limiting factor, how many hours do we need to produce 1 unit of good? It's 15, isn't it? So it will be contribution per unit divided by what? Divided by labor hours per unit for good. And for better, it will be contribution per unit divided by labor hours per unit, in that order. Then we'll now determine our contribution per limiting factor. This is it. Contribution per unit divided by unit of the limiting factor. Unit of the limiting factor. So let's show that. Hope everybody is fine. Hope we are following.
Yes, sir.
In case you are not we are not on the same page, please can you raise up your hand? Let's attend to you. All right, because there is a class exercise.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Topper. I'm so sorry. I need
Yes.
a recap of what you just said. A sort of recap.
All right, so now from the question, having determined that labor is a limiting factor, we're supposed to solve for contribution per unit, but it's already given to us in the question, which for good is 15, for better is 30, and for best is 20. Now, the next step is for us to determine our contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor. Now, to solve for contribution per limiting factor, the formula is what? It's contribution per unit divided by what? Unit, a unit of the limiting factor. Now, a unit of the limiting factor in this regard is how many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of good? How many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of better? How many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of best? And for good is 15, for better is 10, for best is 30. So to determine your contribution per limiting factor, based on the formula prescribed, which is contribution per unit divided by labor hours per unit, it will be what? 15 divided by 15. You have what? You have 1. That will be your contribution per limiting factor. Here it will be 30 divided by 10. You have what? You have 3. And for best, it will be 20 divided by 30. You have what? You should have 0.67 thereabout. So let's see. Is that fine, ma?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. So now you determine contribution per limiting factor. You determine your contribution per limiting factor. So for you to do that, let me still use a table. So we have good, we have good, we have better, and we have best. So now, the contribution per unit for good is what? Contribution.
15 naira.
15.
Contribution per unit for good, we have it as 15 naira. And for better is what?
30.
And for best is what? 20.
20.
Now, for you to produce 1 unit of good, how many hours do you need?
15.
Hours per unit.
15 hours per unit.
So 15. And for this is what? 10.
10.
For this is what?
30.
30. So the contribution per hour will be what?
1 for good.
Contribution per hour. Let me put it in brackets. It can be contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor. So for this, it will be what?
1.
15 divided by 15 equal to what? 1.
1.
This will be 30 divided by 10 equal to what?
3.
This will be what?
Okay.
20 divided by 30.
0.67.
0.7.
0.67. All in naira, please.
Yes.
So now, having done this now, what is the next step? Anybody to help? You ranking. Now, based on these results, which is giving you the highest contribution?
Good.
Better.
Oh, sorry. Better.
First. The next is what?
Good.
Is second. And the third is what? Best.
Best.
So based on this, we can now allocate the 20 hours we have to maximize our contribution. Maximize our contribution. So now, take note of this. The allocation of 20 hours is the next thing, because the number of hours we have, allocation of 20,000 labor hours. Allocation of 20,000 labor hours. So if you are to allocate, in what proportion will you allocate? Let's see that. Let's present that in a table too. In what proportion will you allocate? So now this is it. You can do it in different ways, but to avoid confusion, I will just do it in a very simple way. Maybe I will still show you the other alternative way too. So the total available hour is what? The total available hour is what?
20,000 hours.
20,000 hours. Now, the first ranking product is what? Better. Based on the question, what is the quantity we have to give?
800.
800. How many hours do we need to produce 1 unit of?
10 hours.
10. So the total hours required to produce 800 will be what?
8,000.
8,000. So now, let's first rank product. Let's first rank products. And the first rank product will be what? The total hours, 10 multiplied by what?
8,000.
So we have it as what? 8,000. So the balance will be what now?
12,000.
The balance will be 12,000. So which is ranking next?
Good.
So good is ranking next. And we need how many hours? How many units was requested? 1,000. 1,000, right?
1,000, yes.
1,000. And how many hours do we need to produce 1 unit?
15 hours.
So to produce 1,000 hours, the total hours will be what?
15,000.
Do we have the 15,000 hours?
No.
We only have
12,000.
12,000 hours left. So what will happen? At this point, please take notes. Everybody take notes. At this point, students usually have issues. So you don't need to have any issue, please. This is what you have to do. Once you have the balance, you will now ask yourself, I have 12,000 hours left. And to produce the next ranking product, which is good. How many hours do I need to produce 1 unit? 15. So what you just need to do, the available hours, the balance that is left, divide 12 hours by 15. It will give you the actual amount of units. You understand?
Yes, sir.
You have to produce. You have to produce. Because you don't have sufficient hours, 15,000 hours to produce 1,000 units. So you manage what you have. So in managing that, the hours required to produce good, 1 unit of good is what? 15.
15.
Divide 15 by 12,000. You know the number of units you are to what? Produce.
Produce.
So now, the second round product. So based on this, we need 15 hours to produce 1 unit of good, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have 12,000 hours available. What will happen? It will be 12,000 divided by what? 15.
15.
The result will be what?
800.
The result will be 800. It will be 800. Take note of this. So for you to get 12,000, it will be what? 800 multiplied by what? 15.
15.
We're going to have what?
12,000.
So the balance will now be what now?
0.
0. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Please, everybody.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So we can move on, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the question is, what product mix? It means what are the combinations of products? That is what mix. That is what the mix is talking about. What are the possible products that we can produce that will maximize the contribution? So it's a very simple thing. The point is this: the optimal product mix will be, let me just write down out. Madam Victoria, are you on motion?
Yes, sir.
We can feel the effects. So optimal product mix. There's nothing special here. It's just, what are those products that you can produce? What are those products that you can produce? So we have it as the first we can produce is what? The first product we can produce is better. So we write better. How many units? 800 units. Then the other one is what? Is good. It's just a coincidence. How many units can we produce? 800 units. So it's just coincidence. It does not mean that every question you are solving, the optimal product means will always be same for every unit you want to produce. So this is what, in simple term, this is what the question wants us to do. In simple term. So we're just trying to build it up. Then we'll now go to a question in the Pathfinder. I'll allow you to go and attempt a question in the Pathfinder because some persons have actually attempted. Yeah, some people are through with the whole questions on limiting factor in the Pathfinder. So because we didn't join on time, so that's why I'm doing this again. So now, this is what the question wants us to do, to determine the optimal product mix. And the optimal product mix, the best combination of products, the maximum we can produce for each product and will maximize contribution is 800 units for better, and for good is also 800 units. So this is the requirement of this question. So we're going to quickly look at another similar example. example 2. Then after then, you will now help me to solve this, even while in this class. So this is a class exercise, but let's solve this first so that you'll be very firm and grounded. So somebody can read this, please.
Okay, let me go ahead. Nkem Bottling Company PLC produces 4 products A, B, C, and D with the following information. Material for A, B, C, and D is 2, 3, 5, and 4 respectively. Then labor is 6, 8, 7, and 3. Variable cost is 4, 3, 2, 2. Then the fixed cost is 1, 2, 3, 1. The total cost is 13, 16, 17, and 10 naira. And the profit is 20, 25, 21, and 15 naira. Labor cost per hour is 1 hour, 1 naira, 2 naira, 50, 1 naira 50 kobo, and 50 kobo. Then the budgeted sales per unit is 20,000 units, 16,000 units, 24,000 units, and 10,000 units. The personnel department has recently informed management that only 300,000 hours can be obtained in the labor market. You are required to determine optimal product mix, showing the allocation of resources, and calculate the maximum profits derivable from your allocations.
All right, thank you very much. Yes. Looking at this question, can anybody just explain what he or she understand by this question? Can you just explain some of the basic steps, what you need to do to respond to the requirements of the question? Yes, anybody? You just want to give us some highlights, what we need to look out for in solving this question.
Okay, we have to identify the limiting factor, number one. We get our contribution. Then we should know since they told us our restriction is on labor hour. So once we have gotten our contribution, we get sorry, what do you call this? The contribution per unit. So you now divide it, then we now know how to allocate to know the hours that are available for each product.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, so to quickly solve this question, you can decide to determine, to know the shortfall. Yes, to know the shortfall that is required. Now, looking at this question, material is given in naira, labor is given in naira, variable costs in naira, fixed cost in naira, total cost, profit, labor cost per hour, labor cost per hour. Now, I've then given you the number of hours for each product. The number of hours required to produce product A, is it given? Yes, look at the question very well. The labor hour, no, is no. Yes, the response is no. Yes. Take note, this is labor cost per hour. Some people might want to interpret it as labor per unit. Is cost now. Now, how will you determine the labor for 1 unit? Here, overall, this is 6 naira. You incur 6 naira overall. Now, how much are you paying in terms of labor per hour? Is 1. So how many hours will you use to produce 1 unit of product A?
6 hours.
Fine, 6 hours. 6 divided by 1, 6. For product B, the cost incurred to produce a unit in terms of labor is 8. Now, overall 8. Cost per hour for product B is 2. So how many hours?
4 hours.
4 hours. So in that regard, you solve to determine the hours for each unit of product. But for you to determine the shortfall, let's show that. Solution. Solution. Though in some questions, this first step might not be necessary, but it's good. You show it. That is confirmation of limiting factor. Nice. Confirmation of limiting factor. Confirmation of limiting factor. Let me show it in. So confirmation of limiting factor. Now, the annual demand for each of the products, we have them as what? Let's see, products. We have product A, we have product B, product C, product what? D. Now, the annual demand is what?
20,000.
Of budgeted sales, yes.
20,000, 16,000, 24.
Budgeted sales for product A is 20,000. For B is 16,000. For C is what? 24,000.
24,000.
For D is what?
10,000.
So now will be what? This will be 6 is equal to what? Isn't it? This will be what? What? 2. You have it as what? 4. This will be what? This will be 7 divided by what?
1.5.
You have it as what?
4.67.
4.67. And this will be what? 3 divided by what?
0.5.
You have it as what?
6.
You have it as 6. Please, at this point, hope nobody is confused. The point is this. You incur 6 naira on labor hours to produce 1 unit of product A. Labor cost per hour as 1 naira. For you to know the number of hours you use to produce 1 unit of product A, it will be what? 6 divided by 1. So nobody should get confused, please. 8 divided by 2, 7 divided by 1.5, and 3 divided by. So since we're trying to confirm our limiting factor and know the shortfall, that is why we are showing this working hours per unit. Now, what will be the total hours here? Total hours. At this point, we should have 120.
120.
This point, 4 times 16,000.
64.
64. And 4.67 times 24,000, we have it as what?
112 and 18 naira.
And for D, to be what?
60,000.
1,000.
60,000.
So the total hours required will be what?
356.80 naira.
Total hours required. 356.
80
And
naira.
the total hours available is what? In the question,
300,000 hours.
total hours available 300. So the shortfall will be,
56,080 naira.
so it shows that labor is a limiting factor that will limit our ability to meet up with our production. So now the next step is to determine what? Our contribution per unit. Determine, in the question, you are not giving contribution, right? Determine contribution per unit. Determine contribution per unit. Now look at the question very well. In what way can you determine your contribution per unit?
Profit plus fixed cost.
Look at the question very well. I explained 2 ways of determining contribution. So in what way can you determine your contribution per unit in this regard?
Fixed cost plus profit.
Profit.
Fine. So we can do this.
Hello, Mr. Koko.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not yet done with your page. Please let me snap it. Just put the page and let me snap.
All right.
The first solution. All right, thank you.
So let's see this. So determine contribution per unit. So we have 4 products. Product A, B, C, and D. So the profit, to determine this, in the question, we are given profit and fixed cost, no selling price, though we have variable cost items, but we don't have selling price. In some question, we'll be given both, and you'll be able to determine using 2 approach. Like the question we solved on cobring, we're given both, all the figures required. So you can either use selling price minus variable cost, or you use fixed cost plus profits. So, but in this case now, we are to use our fixed cost and our profits to determine our contribution. So the profits for product A is what? It's 20 naira. For B is what? 25. And for C is what? 21. And for D is what? Is 15. Hope you can determine that in the question. This is it. Now, you add what? Your fixed cost. Your fixed costs are what? Fixed costs for product A is what? Is 1. For product B is what? is 2. For product C is what? Is 3. And for product D is what? Is 1. So now the contribution will be what?
21, 27, 24, and 16.
So this is your contribution. The next step is to determine what? Your contribution and limiting
Limiting
factor. Now, hours per unit for each of the products, you divide it by the contribution you determine here. When you do that, you have what? Your contribution per limiting factor. So let's show that here again so that will not go far. So contribution per limiting factor. So now, for product A, the contribution per limiting factor will be what?
3.5.
Okay, fine. Let's show there is a working we've shown before. This working is very important. Let me show it again so that everybody will be carried along. Now, let me write it as key factor per unit. Key factor per unit. Let's show the workings again for better understanding. For product A, it will be 6 divided by 1. How do we get 6? This is it. You incur 6 naira overall on labor to produce 1 unit. How much are you paying for 1 hour? Is 1 naira. So how many hours did you use overall to produce 1 unit? Is 6 divided by 1. You have 6. So that is why we'll have 6 again here. For B, same approach. You incur 8 naira overall to produce 1 unit in terms of hour. How much are you paying per hour? 2. 2 naira. How many hours do you use? 4 hours. For C, also, you incur how much overall? 7, right? And the cost per hour is what? 1.5. And the result will be what? 4.67. And for D, overall, you incur how much? You incur 3 naira. And cost per hour is what? 0.5. The result will be what? The result will be what? 6. 6. So the contribution per limiting factor will now be what? Will now be 21 divided by what? 6. You have what? For this, it will be 27 divided by what? 4. You have what? And for this, it will be 24 divided by what? 4.67. And for this, it will be what? 16 divided by what? Divided by 6. So when you divide 21 by 6, what do you have?
3.5.
3.5.
Okay, fine. This is what?
6.75.
And this is
2.67.
Praise. Are you using two devices?
Just one, sir.
Okay. So it's echoing when we try to talk and you're on. Right. So now the next thing is what? Is to rank. So which product is giving us the highest contribution
B.
for limiting factor? So this is first. The next is what?
C.
C.
And the next is what?
A.
A.
And this is the fourth. This is the fourth. So what next are we going to do? We are to allocate the production based on the available hours. And the available hours is what? Is 300,000 hours. 300,000 hours. So we'll now do it this way. Allocation of 300,000 hours. 300,000 labor hours. So the approach will now be what? Let's present it in a table likewise. So total available hour. Total available hours is what? 300,000. 300,000. Do something. This is hours. Now, the first ranking product is what? Is B, right?
B.
B. So, based on the budget of sales, how many are we expected to sell, to produce? 16,000. 16,000. So, how many hours do we need to produce that 16,000?
4 hours.
For 1 unit of B. Yes, so we need 4 hours for 1 unit of B to produce 16,000 units. How many hours now?
64,000.
All right. So unless your first rank product is what? Is 4 multiplied by 16. 16,000. The total hours will be 64,000 hours. The balance will be what?
236,000.
236,000. The next ranking product is what?
C.
is C. And we have how many units to produce?
24.
24. So to produce 1 unit, the hours,
4.27.
yes. So we now have it as less second ranked product. Less second ranked product. And the product is what? Product C. This the product is product B. So it will be what? The hours, total hours to produce 24,000 units will be 4.67, which is the hours for 1 unit multiplied by the overall unit, which is 24,000. The total hours will now be what?
112.
412,018 naira.
When you less, the balance will now be what?
123,920.
123,920. The third ranking product is what?
Product A,
And we need how many hours for 1 unit?
6.
We need 6. And we have how many units to produce?
20.
20. Fine. And now, less third ranked products. Let's third ranked products. And the product is product A. So we need 6 hours for 1 unit. And we have to meet up with 20,000 units. So overall, the hours will be what?
120.
120.
120. So what will now be the balance now?
3,920.
Balance is 3,920. Now the next ranking product is what?
Product D,
Product D. And how many hours do we need to produce 1 unit?
6.
6. Now, based on my earlier explanation, that when you have a balance now, okay, before coming there, now we have 6 hours to produce 1 unit. And based on the demand, how many units are we to produce for product D?
10,000.
So if we are to produce the whole of 10,000, it means it will be 6 times what? Times 10,000.
10,000.
We need 60 hours, right?
Yes, sir.
But we don't have the 60 hours, isn't it? We only
Yes, sir.
have 3,920. So how many units of product D can we produce? Based on
653 units.
Okay, fine. Somebody should tell me, not you now. Somebody should tell me how we derive that. Yes. Somebody else should tell us how we derive or how we are to determine the number of units of product D that we are to produce.
You
Divide
divide
the
your
balance
balance.
3,000.
All right. So the fourth rank product is product D. It's product D. And now we only have 3,920 hours left. So now, how are we going to make use of that now? It will now be what? Let's the fourth ranked product. Less the fourth rank products. We have 6 hours to produce 1 unit. But now, how many units can we produce using 3,920? How many units of products? Product D can we produce?
653. 53.333.
653. Okay. 653.33. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to see a way that the approximation will be perfect. Let me see. That is 3920 divided by 6. 65333. Okay, let me waste our time. So now we can produce 653.33 using 3,920 hours. So it will now be what? It will now be what? 6 multiplied by what? 653.3. The result will be what? It should be 3920. But due to approximation, 653.33 times 6. Yes, approximately it will be 3920. Can you confirm that, please?
Yes,
Yes.
confirm, sir.
Yes, confirm, sir.
Confirm, sir.
So the balance will be what?
0.
0. Balance is 0. So the question is what? That you are required to determine the optimal product mix, showing the allocation of resources and calculate the maximum profits derivable from your allocation. The maximum profits derivable from your allocations. So now, based on this now, the optimal product mix is what? Optimal product mix. That is the various units you produce for each of the products. For product A, you're able to produce the whole budgeted product, that is 20,000 units. For B, you can produce what? 16,000 units. And for C, you can produce what? 24,000 units. And for D, you can produce 653 units. This is the optimal product mix. The various units you can produce is just for you to write them. Let's check the question again. Calculate the maximum profit. The maximum profit derivable from your allocations. Now, based on our allocation, based on the allocation for product A, what will be the maximum profit? How will you determine profits now? If your contribution is what? Profit plus fixed cost. If contribution is profit plus fixed cost, when you do a change of subject formula, what will your profit be? Let me show it.
No, it's contribution and fixed cost.
We said contribution. We said contribution is equal to what? Fixed cost plus profits. To determine your profit now, you make profits to stand alone as the subject of the formula. When profit is crossing to the other side, or you allow profit to remain and make your fixed cost to cross to the other side, it will now be what? It will be what? Contribution. It will be contribution.
Minus fixed cost.
Contribution minus fixed cost. Contribution minus fixed cost. So going back to the question, I want us to get the information. That's what? Calculate the maximum profit derivable from your allocations. So based on the unit we can produce, what will be the profit? what will be the profit? Now, if you can produce 20,000 units, what will be your contribution? What will be your contribution? You know, from your calculation, your contribution per unit is what? 21, isn't it? So if you are now producing 20,000 units of product A, your total contribution for product A will be what?
21 multiplied by 20,000.
Fine. 21 multiplied by 20,000. For product B, it will be what? 27 multiplied by what?
16,000.
16,000. For product C, it will be what? 24 multiplied by what? 24,000. 24,000. And for product C, for product D, it will be what?
16 multiplied by 653.33.
Yeah, 635. 653, yes. 653. So that will be your total contribution for each. Now, what will now be your fixed cost? Your total fixed cost. From the question, total fixed cost for each of the products is what? Fixed cost per unit for each of the products is what? 1 for A. So based on the units you are to produce, your fixed cost will now be what? 1 times
20,000 units.
20 in that order. Let's show the workings. Let's show the workings. Let's show the workings. Let me make these workings. So we have it as the workings. Let me make this total contribution. Total contribution. Now for product A, it will be what? It will be 21 naira. Sorry, let me define it well so that everybody will not have any cost to. Unit contribution is this. This is unit contribution. Now, units produced or units sold, because it's budgeted. Let me make it as units produced. Then the total contribution will now be what? For each of the products. Total contribution.
What's 20?
So the unit produced for this point is what? 20,000. The total contribution will now be what? 420. This is B. The unit contribution at that point is what? 27. And the result here is what? The unit produced is what? 16,000. The total contribution will be what?
432.
432. And for product C, the unit contribution is what? 24. Somebody might be thinking, where did we get the unit contribution? See it here. Profit plus fixed costs contribution. You can see it here. You can see them. Yes. So the unit produced for product C is what? 24,000. The total contribution will be what? 576,000. For product D, units contribution is what? 16. The unit produced is what? 653. When you multiply, you have what?
10,448.
10,000. 10,000. So this is total contribution for each of the products. Now, what will our total fixed cost also look like? The total fixed cost. In the same light, likewise, let's copy this. Contribution. Then total fixed cost. Total fixed cost. So fixed cost per unit. We have fixed costs per unit. For product A, the fixed cost per unit is what? Is in the question. See it here. Fixed costs per unit: 1 for A, 2 for B, 3 for C, 1 for D. So we have it as 1 for this to be 2. For this is what? Is 3. And for this is what? Is 1. So one is you multiply.
Wow.
The total fixed costs this will be what? 20. This will be what? 32, right? And this will be what?
72. That will be 10,000.
Okay. Yes. Now, let me explain that. You know, the unit we produced was actually how much? How many units? 653, right? Units. Isn't it for D?
Yes.
Fixed cost. There are costs that does not change with what? With output. Take note, please. Fixed costs are costs that does not change with output. Based on what you've planned for, you've already obtained your machine, that this machine capacity is 100,000. Now, either you produce 1 unit, you still incur that cost. Either you produce 2 units, you still incur the cost. If you produce 100 units, you still incur same costs as you are expected to incur when you produce 1 unit. If you produce 1, you incur same cost of 100,000 units because the machine is already there as fixed. So when computing fixed cost, you compute fixed cost based on the total that have been planned for. So that is why for D, it will be based on the budgeted sales. The fixed cost will be based on the budgeted sales. It will be based on 10,000 units, which will be 1 multiplied by 10,000. Because fixed costs are costs that does not change with the level of output. The fact that we have 653 units here does not mean that the fixed cost will now reduce to the tune of 653 units. No, it's a cost that has been incurred and remains constant over time. And that is why we will not say 1 multiplied by 653 units. It will be 1 multiplied by the budget that has already been made, which is 10,000. I don't know if that is clear, please. Is that clear, please?
Clear.
Yes, clear,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
It's clear.
It's clear.
It's clear.
All right, thank you. Yes, because you will solve another question that has this same application. So don't get confused about it. Fixed cost remains constant based on the unit that has been planned to produce. So this will be 10,000. Okay, this is not where I am. So this will be 10,000, please. So now we want to determine our contribution, our profit rather, based on the question that calculate the maximum profit derivable from your calculations. So we want to show our profits, the maximum profit derivable. And for us to do that, present it in this form. Let's do it this way. The maximum profit derivable maximum profit derivable. We have the products A, B, C, and we have D. Now, to determine the profits, based on the variables we have in the question, it will be what?
Contribution
Contribution minus fixed cost.
So total contribution. Total contribution for product A is what? 420.
420.
For B,
430.
432.
for D is 10. So less total fixed cost. So from what we've computed, the result will be what here? 20,000.
20.
32. 72. And 10,000.
10,000. So the profit will now be what? For product A.
400,000.
400,000.
400,000.
This. And for this to be what? So the question is saying the maximum profits when we use 300,000 hours. So what will be the total profit now overall? So the maximum derivable profits from the distribution of 300,000 labor hours is what? You add the whole profit, right? You have what?
1,304,488 naira.
1,304,000.
488.
So this is what the question wants you to do. This is what the question wants you to do. So Any question, please? Any question? All right. Can somebody read this question, please? Let's analyze it. Yes. Anybody to read?
Okay. Class exercise, right?
Yes.
Sausage makes two products, the mash and the sauce. Unit variable cost are as follows. We have direct material for mash, $1, and for sauce, $3. And the direct labor, $3 per hour, is $6 for mash and $3 for sauce. The variable overhead is $6 and $3.
It's $1.
$1 and $1. The sales price per unit is $14 per mash and $11 per sauce. During July, the available direct labor is limited to 8,000 hours. Sales demand in July is expected to be as follows: mash 3,000 units and sauce 5,000 units. Determine the production budget that will maximize profits, assuming the fixed costs per month are $20,000 and that there is no opening inventory of finished goods or work in progress.
Yes, thank you very much. So from this question, you can solve first by confirming the limiting factor. By confirming the limiting factor, it's clearly stated that the available direct labor is limited to what? 8,000 hours. The question now is, it's very clear that labor hour is the limiting factor. But the question is, how many hours do you use to produce 1 unit of mash? And how many hours will you use to produce 1 unit of sauce? How many hours? Then once you determine that, then you now compare with the expected sales. That is for mesh. Now looking at the screen, it will be 6 divided by 3, 2 hours for mesh. 2 times 30 times 3,000 units, you have 6,000 hours to be used. And for sauce, it will be what? 3 divided by 3, that is 1 hour to produce 1 unit of sauce. 1 times 5,000 is 5,000. Total hours required will be what? Total hours
11.
required 11.
11 hours.
Yes, total hours available is what?
8,000.
8,000. So the shortfall is what? 3,000 hours. So it's very clear that labor is the limiting factor. So the next thing is for you to determine your contribution. Your contribution. I'm supposed to allow you to go and solve it, but let me just give some little hints. Then when you go back and solve, you should be able to give me the right answers. The contribution will now be the sales price less variable costs. From the question, the sales price for mesh is what? 14. For sauce is what? 11. The variable costs include what? The variable costs is clearly given: direct material, direct labor, variable overhead. 8 for mesh, 7 for sauce. So 14 minus 8, you should have 16 for mesh. Sauce, 11 minus 7, you should have 4. Then you now determine the contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor, which will now be your contribution per unit divided by labor hours per unit. For mesh, it should be 6 divided by 2 hours. You should have 3 naira as the contribution per limiting factor. And for sauce, it should be 4 divided by 1, and you should have $4 as your contribution per limiting factor. Now, you now rank which one is giving you the best. Then based on the production now, you now see the product the unit you can produce for each of mesh and source. Then you now determine your total contribution. Then you now determine your profit. The fixed cost is already given as $20,000. So all you need to do to get your profit is your total contribution less fixed cost. You have your profit. I believe you can do that.
Yes, sir.
All right. So if you can do that, fine. Let's try and solve it and then share your solution with us. Then I will now tell you what next to do. I will now refer you to other questions once you can solve this. So please do well to go and solve all these questions again. The examples, sit down on your own, try and solve them on your own, and then you get better and be able to confront any question that you see. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I'm with you, ma'am.
Kindly help me go back to page before this class is